we're part of the same community, and we try to make sure that to the greatest extent possible, people are able to exercise decision-making over money that's put into the trust. We also want to ensure that people have as great a choice as possible. We don't, again, want to tell you what to spend the money that you contribute to the trust on. We want you to tell us. So, you know, some organizations, when we first set this up, had a list of services or a menu of services. And that was all that you could spend the money that was put into the trust on. We don't do that. We say, you know, you tell us, and if it doesn't interfere with your benefits and it's legal, then we'll write the check. That's how we operate the trust. And finally, the improvement of quality of life. The vast majority of disbursements that we make from the trust and have made from the trust over the last 10 years fall into this category, to make sure that people with disabilities, members of the trust, have as high a quality of life and as great independence as possible. That's where we're coming from. When we do suspect that there may be exploitation or abuse of one of our beneficiaries, we make sure that nothing else goes out of the trust until that issue is resolved. But I can tell you those instances are very, very few and far between. If we have one a year, that's a lot. But we are very vigilant when it comes to that. And if we see anything out of the ordinary, we make sure that the person with disabilities, that their interests are protected as much as possible. We have tried to design the pool trust and our trust administration services to make sure that we have the quickest service possible to our beneficiaries. When we started this, we looked at other trusts where sometimes you had to wait 3 or 6 months to get a request approved for money. We know, as members of the disability community, that the people with disabilities can't live like that. You know, you can't wait 6 months to have a need addressed. You often need that money yesterday, not just today. So what we have done is we've designed our system so that our typical turnaround time is 1 to 2 days from the time that we get our simplified request form in the office. We turn it around in 1 to 2 days. We direct that the check be cut, and typically the check arrives wherever it's supposed to go in about a week's time. And we can speed that up if we have to in emergencies, but again, we've tried to make it as responsive as possible. It's still not an ATM, but we have tried to get it as close to that as possible to best serve persons with disabilities. Some of the things that we have paid for out of the trust have stayed pretty constant throughout time, and they include accessible vehicles, assistive technology, personal care assistance services, tuition, travel, medical or dental procedures that aren't paid for by Medicaid or another government benefit program. That's where the vast majority of requests for distributions fall. And again, those are types of things that have a dramatic impact on the quality of life of a person with disabilities. To join our trust administration program, we have a one-time fee of $750. And for the pool trust, we have an all-inclusive annual fee of 3.15%, and that includes all the administration, money management, and custodial expenses. We believe very strongly in making sure that our fees and our costs are transparent as possible and that everything is disclosed. We're not going to come back to you at some other point and say, okay, we're going to charge you more money for this or that. That's all the expenses that are going to be charged. We have no minimum fee. A lot of A lot of financial institutions will say, okay, well, it's a certain percentage or a minimum of, for instance, $5,000. We have no minimum fee. It is always just the percentage, whether you've got $50,000 or $50 in the account. It's just a flat percentage of whatever that balance is. We also have no minimum amount to contribute and no minimum amount necessary to keep the account open. Now, those things that we found over time are very important, because we have tried to make the trusts as flexible as possible for people. In fact, you don't need any money to be able to set up an account. You can sign the documents, we can make sure everything is properly executed, and it can be sitting there ready to go. We don't assess any fees, we don't assess any costs until you're ready to deposit funds into the account. So again, our job, as we see it, is to make sure that we create as effective a tool as possible for the disability community, and that's what we've tried to do. What we've tried to do is really set up the no mess, no fuss solution for people with disabilities, as we've discussed it. With the pool trust, by law, the trustee has to be a nonprofit organization, which is Family Network on Disability. So you don't have to worry about who's going to serve as trustee. We hire professional money managers and financial custodians for your fees to make sure that everything is done as properly as possible, that the funds are properly and safely invested, and we provide our beneficiaries with professional trust administration services that many would not be able to afford if they were outside of the scope of the trust administration program. Now, let me just mention that the pool trust entering a pool trust is the only option for folks over 65 who want to set up a special needs trust. Other types of special needs trusts are not permissible for folks over 65 who have their own money and, for instance, need to qualify for the ICP program, the institutional care program. If that's necessary, a pool trust is the only option for them. But in closing, I just want to emphasize that in doing this type of planning, this type of crucial planning, you can't start too soon, and help is out there. All you have to do is ask, and please feel free to contact myself or Family Network on Disabilities so that we can help in whatever way we can. Thank you very much.